Hello, my friends. My name is Post-Production Pi, Editor-in-Chief for srlounge.com. Welcome to another installment of our weekly Ordinary to Extraordinary Raw Edit featuring the Lightroom preset system V5. Now, as always, we're going to be demonstrating how to create our effect using the preset system, and then we'll be going through the actual developed settings just to help you all understand what's going on behind the effect on the image. That way, everybody that's watching, whether you have the preset system or you don't, well, everybody can benefit. If you are interested in learning more about the SR Lounge Lightroom preset system, then simply click the link below in the description. It'll take you right over to the SR Lounge store where you can learn more and potentially purchase. All right, so let's get started. In this video, we're gonna be working on this lovely image of our beautiful Indian bride in this lovely dress that she has. And actually, this Indian bride of ours is incredibly talented because this dress is one that she designed herself. She's an amazing dress designer. And we did this series of portraits before the wedding just to kind of, well, it was almost more of like a fashion shoot to kind of really show off the dress and to show off her in the dress. She's absolutely gorgeous. The dress is absolutely gorgeous, and them two together is just stunning. So let's look at how this image was shot. I'm going to hit I to bring up information. This was taken on a 5D Mark III. It was on a 100mm lens on the 100mm macro, which is a really nice lens for portraits. A lot of people kind of overlook that lens thinking it's only a macro lens, but it's great for portraits as well. I really love it because it compresses the background beautifully, and it's so awesome in the details. You can get close, you can back up, you can do all of it with this lens. It's great. We shot it at 1/200 of a second. It's at f2.8 and ISO 400. So we don't have too high of ISO to really worry about. The amount of noise reduction that's going to be applied with our preset should be enough. We're going to start this off again with our extra soft. Again, based on the focal length and the type of image this is, this extra soft is going to be the right one to go with, okay? So it's kind of a close-up, but not super close, and it's not a newborn, so we don't want to soften it up too much, and we don't want too much contrast. Well, soft is going to work too. It's going to be really about preference. Now, we do have that skin desaturation, and you'll notice that because skin desaturation pulls the saturation of red tones down, it also desaturates the dress a bit. So we have to make some adjustments for that, but that's okay. I'd rather have that than not have it. So we'll add a little bit of detail back. Now what we're going to do here is let's go down to exposure. We can test different exposure levels. I really want somewhere in between 0.5 and 1. So let's just leave it there, and we're just going to go to the right side and just adjust it down a titch. I'm going to take it to maybe 0.7. From here, I'm going to adjust my temperature, and what I want is just a very kind of nice white looking image, and I want this dress to really pop from her. So we're gonna actually bring out the reds and stuff, and I want her skin tones not to be cool like on the point that it's like cold, but I just want it to be very neutral, so that way it's a lot of attention goes to the dress. Okay, before we get into the detail and enhancements that we're gonna do in just a second, let's just go through our standard settings over here. And what we have, again, temperature and exposure, contrast, those are all self-explanatory. So with our highlights and whites, we have the same adjustment, -40, -30, as we did in our last tutorial where we had that soft, flattering preset that we created. The shadows and blacks is going to be something a little bit different. We're leaving this kind of more just standard, just with what the preset comes with, because I want that softer look to it. Plus, we're going to be doing some detail enhancing, and that's going to add more contrast and blacks to it as well. So I don't want to go too overboard. With clarity, we have it -20 again, vibrance -5, -5. Again, this is the same as the last tutorial. Negative red at -20, and then orange at -10 with our same S-curve that's adding a little bit of overall contrast. Okay, going down to detail, we have the same amounts. I'm going to zoom in and just double check, make sure those amounts are good. And here we can do a little bit of sharpening, but see, notice that the sharpening is actually great over the dress details. Looks like her eyes are just kind of falling slightly out of focus from the lens itself being at such a shallow aperture. So I'm not going to sharpen that too much. We can do a little bit of detail enhancement there if we need to, but I don't want to do overall sharpening because the dress is already solid as it is. The noise reduction looks great as is as well. We have our lens vignetting at +30 and 30, and we can actually boost that a tiny bit. Well, you know what, let's see. If we boost it a little bit, I don't want the dress over on the right side to be affected, so let's leave that. Again, we'll make that adjustment manually in just a second. All right, so that's it for all of our developed settings. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this a step further. So we learned how to do this in the last tutorial. Now let's go a step further and build on that by doing a little bit of retouch and then some detail enhancing. Okay, so let's actually start first with our detail enhancing. And I'm going to do, we can either do a general all-purpose, or since we have clothing and that's what this image primarily is, we're just going to do clothing and texture. Now you can increase the size of your brush by just clicking left and right brackets. You can use the mouse wheel, but generally when I'm trying to make large adjustments to the brush size, rather than just kind of flicking the wheel, I just go over and make the adjustment right there. Okay, one thing we want to do is make sure that we turn our flow all the way up. So right now my flow is actually down. Okay, we're going to click and make this adjustment globally. And then what I'm going to do is shrink down the brush. Let me hold down Alt to bring up my eraser brush option on a Mac, and we're just going to choose a size that looks appropriate for her skin basically. So I'm just going to pull out those adjustments so that way we're not enhancing or detail enhancing the skin tones, because we don't want to do that basically. All right, so let's just pull it out right here. And what I would typically do is, if this is going to print, I'm going to get in a little bit closer and really do some fine tuning. But we can just hit O to bring up that overlay. And I'll zoom in for a second just to kind of show you guys what I mean, but we're just going to zoom in and kind of just pull it out of these areas that we don't want enhanced. And so kind of do a nice job of it. That way, when it prints, if it blows up, you don't have kind of these weird areas of adjustments over skin tones. All right, so just kind of do a nice, good job of cleaning it up. That should be good enough for this tutorial. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Okay, let's zoom back out. Our adjustment there looks good. And now what we can do, I'm going to hit O, and then we can click on this pin and we can adjust the level up and down. So if we want to adjust the strength of one of these presets, we can just click on it and go to the left. It's going to incrementally adjust everything so it's less powerful. Going to the right is going to incrementally adjust everything so it's more powerful. So we want it to be on the subtle side, so I'm going to pull it just a little bit more to the left. And right about here, it looks pretty solid. I'm really digging the way that looks. Okay, so that does a great job in adding that saturation back, adding the contrast back, really making the dress pop without making it too over the top, basically. All right, let's move on. And what I'm going to do here is, let's do one quick little graduated filter just to add back this color toning down here in the bottom left. Okay, once again, I just want to kind of brighten up this bottom left as it got a little bit dark. It could just be naturally because the lighting is a little bit dark in that area, but I just want to even it out a little bit. This is looking good, and with this image here, we have this window in the background that kind of creates a nice frame. So if we want, we can keep it, but I'm going to make a nice little adjustment here. I'm going to change the crop just a tiny bit. And then the thing that bugs me, if I kept the window, I'd probably remove this little line right here because I feel like it's a little bit distracting. But let's just get rid of the window and make this just really a high key image. So to do that, what we're going to do is go to our adjustment brush once again. We're going to go to the dodge whiten at +4 stops. I'm going to shrink down the size of this brush again, rather than just flipping the mouse wheel 10 times. I'm going to just drag it down and get the right size there. We're also going to take our flow to say around 50%. That way it doesn't apply too much on the single pass, okay? So what we're going to do with this is kind of go through these areas, and I'm going over and fairly close to the dress and body. I'm letting it overlap just a tiny bit. And the reason I'm doing this is because you'll notice that when you take, like if you're shooting high key images, I'm actually going to adjust the flow back up a little bit. Let's take up to 80. When you're doing or shooting high key images, you do get a little bit of this blooming effect. And the blooming effect is basically where a little bit of that light kind of comes over and onto the edge of the subject. So it kind of brightens up those areas naturally. So doing this with a subtle feather over these areas is going to really kind of create a fitting look to the image. It won't look like it's faked at all. Okay, so don't worry too much if you're going over a little bit of the dress, a little bit of the of her skin, a little bit in those hand areas and stuff. We don't want to really touch the face too much because it would look weird over there, but the rest of it, see, I'm kind of overlapping with the dress. If we go a little bit too far, we can always just erase it out. I went a little bit too far on the dress on that part. So I'm going to hold down Alt, and then we're just going to bring it back there. Okay? And that's looking solid. Now, one thing we definitely want to do is we want to zoom into this area down here and just make the same adjustment. Here is a perfect area for the auto mask function. So turn on auto mask. Again, make the same adjustment here. Auto mask is going to do a great job of keeping it kind of in the boundaries of her hand and everything. I'm going to do the same thing right over here. Does a really nice job of that. And then we can make kind of the blooming adjustments in just a second. But let's get it close to about right. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. I'm going to turn off auto mask now, and I'm going to, just with a slightly larger brush, we're going to paint in more and just get kind of that soft blooming effect. That way we don't have such a strong edge here where the skin kind of meets the white area. We want to have a little bit softer of a look. All right, same thing in here. I'm just going to shrink it down, drag it through. We want to get that little bit of blown out look to those areas. Okay, and then I'm going to do it right here too. All right. This is looking pretty solid. We can always click and just click out and just kind of take a look at it, make sure it looks okay. If it looks a little bit too sharp down here, just apply more to get a little bit more of that edge blooming, and then it should balance out really nicely. So I'm just going to do a little bit more there. Okay, and that's pretty nice. What I'm going to do is actually, you know what we can do instead of making that adjustment? Let's just go and brighten up this little graduate filter. So let's take that graduate filter that we dragged in, and let's I'm going to delete this one and pull it out one more time, just a little bit more in. Since we don't have that window we have to worry about, let's just pull it right into the bracelet, and then I'm going to take it up a little bit more. So it just becomes a little bit more bright. There we go. That's looking really nice. Okay, and if we want, we can also take a second one up from the bottom right, just to brighten up the bottom of the dress. I'm going to keep this one really on the subtle side though, so let's pull this one down to maybe around 0.2, 0.3, just to brighten up the bottom side of this dress that got kind of dark there. All right, so this is looking really solid now, and what I can do here is I'm going to zoom in and just make sure her face details look good. And there's one thing that I want to enhance, and that's her eyelash. So let me switch over here to hair and lash enhancement, and we're going to zoom in. Again, if you don't have the presets, hit pause and then dial in these settings and save it, as a brush preset, and then you'll have it, okay? So let's just go right over the lashes, kind of darkens it up a little bit, adds a little bit of detail there. It looks really nice. I'm going to do the same thing with her eyebrow, because her eyebrow looks a little bit soft. I generally don't, do this enhancement to eyebrows. Right now, her eyebrow is very, very soft, and that's why I'm doing it. Okay, so let's also do one last one for her lips. Where is it? There we go. Whoops, I select iris, lips. There we go. And this will just give a little bit extra color and pop to her lips. Okay, this is looking solid. Let's zoom out. Let's check out the before and after. Make sure we're happy with all of our adjustments here. Here is the before. Here's the after. Again, we're getting there by hitting backslash. This is looking beautiful. I love it. I love the high key look on this image. It really creates a really nice, beautiful look. And from here, if we wanted to make any fine-tuning adjustments to our exposure or whatever, we can. I think it would look awesome with actually a little bit more brightness to it, just so our skin tones are super bright. The overall image just has this very beautiful, bright feel to it. And I love it right there. Great job, guys, with another video, and I'll see you all in the next one.